Welcome back to the Institute for Business Growth and the Sales Accelerator Workshop. We're on the last lesson of Module 10, Selling the Way Others Want to Buy. We're going to talk about selling to the conscientious or our analytics. Hopefully through this process, you're starting to see that you can create adaptability strategies that increase your effectiveness 100-fold. And it doesn't take a lot of work. It just takes a little bit of awareness to understand what the other person likes to see from you, wants to see from you. Let's review just a little bit about our conscientious, what's important to them. Our conscientious are slower paced, they listen critically, and they talk sparingly. Don't assume because they're quiet they're not listening. They are certainly absorbing everything, and they're putting it through their filters to try to understand what's true and what's not. They speak calmly and unemotionally. They're cool, introverted, and very analytical, and they don't like criticism or unpredictability. One of the hardest behavior styles for conscientious to deal with is our influencers, because they're very unpredictable. They like to brainstorm a lot, they like to mastermind, they're concerned about feelings, they tell stories, they digress, they'll change directions on a dime. And that's the exact opposite of what the conscientious is looking for. So if you're a sales rep who has a lot of influencer tendencies, be aware of the impact of your behavior style on the conscientious, especially if conscientious is one of your core markets. They're very, very deliberate in the decision-making process, and they seek precision and they avoid quick decisions. Here's one of the things I really want you to understand is when you're talking to a conscientious, or you give them documentation, or you give them a written proposal, they're going to read it. But if there's something that's not in there that should be in there that may impact the decision either way, from their perspective, they're going to assume that you did it on purpose. It's best that if there's a weakness in your product or your service, that you hit it up front, you talk to them about it, and make sure they're aware, because they're going to find it. And if they find it and you didn't tell them about it, then there's a real relationship strategy that has to be overcome here, because they're going to perceive you as being dishonest. And then one of the things conscientious don't like is stress. As we know, they're cool, they're introverted, and they're analytical. But if you press them and you don't give them time to prepare, or if you want a decision now without allowing them to go through their decision-making process, they'll tell you what you want to hear, but then they're going to literally withdraw. They won't respond to your emails. They won't respond to your voicemails. You're almost person non grata to them. What do they do best? They're great at perfecting, organizing, fine-tuning. I spent years as a management consulting and doing process work, applying technologies to streamline processes. And as you can imagine, I worked with a lot of the conscientious. They're really good at taking processes and streamlining them, making them more effective, more efficient, more productive. They're great at organizing. Part of the challenge they have, though, is that they have a tendency to take people out of the equation. They have, and that's not necessarily a good thing, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. So you want to temper a little bit where they can over-automate a process or procedure. They like to look at the logic of a possible solution. Feelings don't necessarily matter. This is the behavior style that if anybody can divorce the feelings from the data, the feelings from the logic, the conscientious can do that. And they're going to make them the most right decision based on what the data says. And they will always plan to meet your expectations. They may not meet them on time, but they will plan to meet your expectations. What's difficult for them is working in groups. As a sales rep, if you know you're working with the conscientious style, sometimes it's best to get them outside of the group and talk to them one-to-one, because they will tell you more one-to-one than they will in a group. They don't like working with unpredictable people or in disorganized environments. So an unpredictable person might be somebody that walks into the conscientious office and says, hey, I got a question for you. Can you blah, 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 and expects them right then and there to drop everything and do what's asked, not giving them time to think about or even process the information. That's very difficult for them. The best approach, if you have a question, is to send them an email or call them on the phone or however you reach them and say, I have a question. This is what it's about. This is what I'd like to discuss. Are you available at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, for example, to talk about it? And they will spend all evening preparing, thinking about it, making sure that they've thought through any possible questions you may have so that they're prepared. Give them time to go through the process. They don't like incomplete or unclear directions. Sometimes they can ask questions that just don't have an answer, and it's okay to say, I don't know. Let's work with what we've got. But give them time to ask you questions so that they can get comfortable with the solution that you have. And they, as I mentioned, they don't like questions that don't have clear answers. By all means, stay away from how they feel about things, because when they're processing, it's not about how they feel. It's what does the data dictate? What does the documentation say? It's about logic, precision. So when you're looking to create a relationship with a conscientious in a buying arena, you want to be thorough and well prepared. Be cordial when you walk in, but get straight to the task at hand, straight to the agenda or the project work, and avoid small talk. What they did over the weekend is frankly none of your business. And if they wanted you to know, they tell you, and more than likely they see it as an intrusion. They want you to demonstrate through your actions that you're going to do what you said, not through your words or not through promises, because they're all about actions. So if you tell them you're going to do something, by all means do it, because you're jeopardizing your relationship if you don't. And if you're going to be late, and that sometimes happens, call them and tell them you're going to be late. You want to be prepared to answer detailed questions, because they're going to drill into the details in ways none of the other styles typically will. Have the data and the analysis and the information with you. The more documentation you can provide to them about your product or service, the much more comfortable they're going to feel about making an informed, intelligent, and logical decision. Demonstrate logic in your thinking and build it case by case. Break news in a step-by-step manner. And by that, what I mean is that if I contrast this with an influencer, I could tell influencer a big picture story, and they're going to grasp it right away. If I start out with the big picture on the conscientious, they have trouble with that. But if I take them step by step by step by step that leads to that big picture outcome that I'm looking for, that they can follow. So how you present to the conscientious is very, very important. So when you're selling to the conscientious, what you want to do is you want to explore their expertise. And that sounds a little bit invasive, but it's not with the right question. You can say something like, tell me a little bit about your background so I understand better what you're looking to accomplish. Ask them about their objectives and their concerns. You want to emphasize the accuracy of your solution, and you want to be clear about the disadvantages of your program, because they're going to find them. And if you don't tell them, like I mentioned, they're going to have some issues with trust with you. So again, very quickly, be well prepared, cordial, but get straight to the point. Demonstrate your commitment through action, not words. If you say you're going to do something, do it. And do it when you say you're going to do it. Be prepared for the detailed questions, and don't be afraid if you've got a complex product and services to bring in a technical guy or a technical person to help you out. Have all the data and information at hand, and be logical in your thinking. Minimize physical contact. This is very important. I had a client once that was very high on the conscientious scale, and he used to practice small talk before he came to parties or networking events, because he wanted to make sure he was ready. And he sometimes in social settings, you're around influencers that really do like, or steadies that really do like physical contact, hugs, for example. The gentleman would cringe. That was not who he was. Now, from a rapport perspective, you really want to understand that the conscientious is driven by the inner need to lead and to be right. And their key need is accuracy. They seek facts, figures, and benefits. That sentence right there should tell you how to sell to any of our conscientious. So be sure to take the quiz. Make a list of the conscientious people in your life. I want you to do that because I want you to get used to thinking about behavior styles and understand that people can fit into many different behavior styles depending on the situation. So for me, for example, if I'm coaching, I'm very much in my driver's mode. I want to get results from my clients. If I'm learning something new, I'm very much in my conscientious mode. Start me out small, build me up, and I'll follow you. If I'm speaking, networking, I'm very much in my influencer role. I'm out there making friends and meeting new people. And when I'm at home, I have a very strong tendency to be a steady. So understand that the value of what we're talking about will allow you to adapt to a person as they move between styles. I've seen directors actually appear to chew up a sales rep in a call. And once he was comfortable that the sales rep knew what he was doing, he switched gears completely and became very friendly. He just wanted to find out how the person would respond under stress and whether or not he knew his stuff. Once he was convinced, everything was fine. And know that drivers, in fact, will do that. So again, think through your sales approach. What is your value proposition for conscientious? Because it's going to be different. Unlike a steady, for example, who values harmony, safety, security, and stability, you're talking to a conscientious that wants facts, figures, benefits, and logic. Your rapport strategy is going to be very different with the conscientious. How you present will be very different as well. And the types of closing questions will be different because when you're presenting to a conscientious, it's logical, it's facts, it's figures. And many times they'll say, I need to think about it. And they're not trying to put you off, but they have to go through their decision-making process, which may take some time. So be sure to give them time to do that. Okay, we finished Module 10, Selling the Way Others Want to Buy, and we're going to move on to Module 11, which are questions. And they're questions specifically to uncover the problem, the impact of the problem, and the potential pain the individual feels if the problems aren't solved.